Earlier this week, my YouTube channel turned 11 years old. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, and give this video a thumbs up if you are, you would know that if my channel were a wizard in the UK, she would be expecting an invitation letter to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry pretty soon. So to celebrate 11 years of making nerdy videos over here, I'm going to show you how to make a Hogwarts letter wristlet, which you can use to carry anything you want. It's made of vinyl and it has a cute Hogwarts seal made out of felt. I also added a cotton lining to keep the inside looking nice, so of course I picked the most magical fabric I could find. Check the video description box for a link to the free pattern PDF as well as a list of materials you'll need and where you can find them. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's only its first year at Hogwarts and I'm brewing up lots more videos that you'll want to stick around for. Okay, here's how to make your very own Hogwarts letter wristlet. Print out the template PDF and cut out the pieces. After you cut out the Hogwarts seal, carefully use a craft knife and a cutting mat to remove the H from the main shape. This is what that piece should look like. To make the envelope pattern, grab an extra sheet of paper and line up the rounder triangle shape at the top of that. Then measure out a 10.5 inch by 7.25 inch rectangle and tape the shorter rectangle side to the longest triangle side, like this, so you can fold the shape into your envelope later. The other triangle with the flattened top is actually going to be a template for some decorative stitching, so keep that piece aside. Now grab some off-white vinyl or faux leather. Mine looks like this on the right side. Flip it over and trace the envelope template onto the wrong side, then cut out the shape. I chose to use this sparkly blue Galaxy cotton fabric for the lining, but you could use any pattern or color you'd like. Lay out this fabric with the wrong side up, then place the vinyl shape on top of it with the right side of that one facing up. Pin them together using clothespins and cut a matching shape out of the cotton. I'm using clothespins instead of sewing pins for this project, so there aren't any extra holes poked in the vinyl, but you could use any kind of clips you have around, really. So that gives you the right side of the vinyl, then when you flip, there's the right side of the cotton lining. Got it? Now, on the vinyl, trace and cut out a long 12 by 1 inch rectangle to use as a strap. Fold it in half lengthwise with the right side of the vinyl facing out and use clothespins to hold it shut. Then sew through both layers close to the open edge to close it up. I like to sew backwards and forwards a few stitches at each end to secure it. When you've done that, your strap should look something like this and you can trim off the extra threads. Next, we'll add a bit of decorative stitching to the envelope. If you fold up the bottom edge and fold down the triangle at the top, you'll get an idea of how the envelope will eventually look, and when we line up the remaining triangle template with the bottom edge, you can see where we're going to put a line of stitching. So hold the template in that spot on the good side of the vinyl while you carefully unfold the envelope. Mine ended up being 2.25 inches down from the end of the square edge. Make sure the template is even on both sides and clip it in place. I'm going to sew along this edge around the template rather than tracing it, since this is the front side of the vinyl and I don't want to mark it up. Pull out the pins as you go. As you probably noticed, I'm using a sewing machine for this project, but you could definitely hand sew it with a sharp needle and a thimble using backstitch. I'll link to more detailed hand sewing tutorials in the video description if you want to learn how to do that. It's okay if you accidentally sew into the paper template because you can just pull it off at the end. And that will give you a line of stitching that suggests there are more flaps and pieces than there actually are. Yay for keeping things simple. Next, grab your 2 envelope pieces and place them wrong sides together, right sides out, so the back sides of the fabric are hidden inside. Clip them together so they don't move, then sew them together just along the short edge. I'm using around 1/8 inch seam allowance and again, sewing backwards a few stitches at the beginning and end to keep it secure. In general for this project, the lining tends to slip around until you sew it down, so I trimmed down the bit of cotton fabric that was sticking out behind the vinyl. Then take the strap and loop it around so the unfinished ends are together facing the same direction. I decided to attach mine to the top right corner of the inside of the purse, so I pinned the lining to the vinyl around that spot. The first time I tried attaching the strap, the 2 ends slid around in my sewing machine, so I hand sewed them together really quickly to keep that from happening. It can be kind of tough to hand sew vinyl since it's so thick, so you could try using a thimble to push it through. I didn't have one, so I pulled the needle through with some pliers, and I've used other objects I had around whenever I've needed to push it. Then stick that in your sewing machine and sew back and forth across the ends of the strap. Trim the extra threads when they're totally secure. So now we've got the bottom edge sewn and the strap is attached, and before we sew the rest of it together, it's time to add a magnetic clasp I got from the purse making section of a fabric store. There are 2 sections, and first we'll need the bottom section, which is thicker and has a hole cut into it where the top section will sit. Remove this little metal disc for now. Fold up the bottom of the envelope piece and fold down the triangle at the top to see where you'll need to place it. The clasp will be going under the rounded point of the triangle, so hold the bottom section right there, move the top flap out of the way, and press the prongs of the clasp into the vinyl to make 2 little marks near the top of your decorative stitching. Open it up and move the lining out of the way, then carefully use your scissors to snip into those marks just through the vinyl. Then push the prongs of the magnetic clasp into place from the front side. Slide the extra metal piece on top of that on the back side, then use your pliers to bend the prongs down flat. Pull the lining back over it, and that's what it should look like. Now for the main assembly step. Fold the bottom back up, lining it up with the base of the triangle section. I clipped the folded edge with 2 big clothespins so I wouldn't have to hold it down. We're going to start in one corner and sew up the side, around the edge of the triangle to attach the rest of the lining to the vinyl, then down the other side, stopping at the other corner. As you're pinning it in place, I found it helpful to fold down the triangle before clipping the lining to that part. It's okay that the lining isn't totally aligned with the edge of the vinyl because we can trim it later. Pop it back into your sewing machine and with around an 1/8 inch seam allowance, sew along that line I showed you. Try to keep it as even as you can since the stitches will be visible. Stop sewing and lift your presser foot to go around the corners and tight curves. Be careful as you go around the triangle section because, like I showed you earlier, the lining might have slipped out past the edge of the vinyl. Periodically check that you're sewing through both layers because it may be tough for you to see the vinyl underneath. Pull the clothespins out as you go and keep going until you reach the other corner. When you're done, trim off the extra threads and the edges of the lining that were sticking out. It's okay to see a little bit of the lining, but that's just something I did to make it look cleaner. Now we need to add the top part of the magnetic closure to the underside of the point of the triangle. Press the top piece of the clasp down so the prongs push into the point of the triangle where the 2 clasps will line up, then make 2 little cuts through both the vinyl and the lining along each of the marks it left. Keep in mind that you'll actually be attaching it from the inside, but it's much easier to see the marks in the vinyl than trying to mark it from the cotton side. Then open the envelope and push that piece of the clasp up so the prongs poke through those holes. To secure it, place the little metal disc it came with onto the prongs on the front side, then bend these metal pieces down flat like we did with the first half of the clasp. So now the clasp should be totally functional and the magnets should click together when you close the purse. Yay! So if you'd like, apply some fray check along the edges of the cotton lining fabric to keep it from fraying and let that dry while you work on the next step. All that's left is to make a felt Hogwarts seal to cover up the back of that top clasp. Using some stiff red felt, cut out the seal shape using the template we cut out earlier. To remove the H from that piece, I carefully used a craft knife to trace the H using the template like a stencil. Once I could see the marks, I removed the template and then I had an easier time cutting those pieces out. This was probably the toughest part of the whole project, mostly because I should have changed to a new blade to make sure it was sharp enough, but I think the effect was worth the trouble. Now the small circle template is actually the shape of a hole that you'll need to cut into the next piece of felt. The seal will fit right into it, so press it down, leaving a little room around it, and cut around the circle with your craft knife. Once you've kind of traced it, you can push your scissors in there and cut it out like this. Then cut loosely around it to make this next step easier and cut around the circle in a wavy line like this. We're making the kind of random organic section outside of the seal where the wax would have dripped. I decided not to make a template for this part so everyone will be different. Grab your extra felt again. We'll need one more piece for the background. Glue the ring shape down to the felt, then glue the Hogwarts seal down in the center of the hole. Let that dry, then cut down the background so it lines up with the outside of the wavy circle. And that's our little mock wax seal. So that is going to go right here, hanging over the edge of the triangle shape. Thread a needle with some red thread and tie a knot at the end. Hold the seal in place, start the needle underneath so the knot is hidden between the seal and the envelope, then start carefully hand sewing it to the vinyl around the edges of the seal. I'm using whip stitch for this, and if you're new to sewing and want to see a more detailed tutorial for that, I'll link to one in the video description. Like I mentioned earlier, it's pretty difficult to sew through vinyl by hand, so I'm using a combination of pliers and this spool of thread to push and pull the needle through when I need them. Maybe I'll get a thimble next time. When you get to the edge of the envelope on the other side, flip it over. Now keep whip stitching, this time attaching the tip of the envelope to the underside of the seal. You don't have to push the needle all the way through the layers of felt, just make sure you've grabbed enough to secure that piece to the purse. Once you reach the spot closest to where you started, hook your needle under a stitch to anchor it and pull it through this loop to make a knot. Pull it tight, repeat it for good luck, then push your needle in so it comes out an inch away and trim it to hide the excess on the inside. And that's it! You can close and open it using the magnetic clasp, use it to carry a few small things you need, and take it with you on your adventures. One thing that I especially love about projects like this is that they suit people like me who want to find ways to fit their nerdier interests into their existing style. The average person might not recognize this as a Harry Potter inspired item, but anyone who loves the books as much as I do will spot it right away. When you're done making this project, I would absolutely love to see it. Share a photo on social media and don't forget to tag me. I'm Lauren FairWX on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I go to a lot of Harry Potter conferences and Yule Ball events and Wizard Rock shows, so this little envelope will be perfect for when I need a smaller purse. There are also lots of ways that you can adjust this to work better for you. You can leave out the strap if you want to make it into a clutch, and you could even change the size and add some padding if you wanted to use it as an iPad or laptop sleeve. If you're as much of a Harry Potter fan as I am, share this video with anyone you know who might love it. I know that I grew up wishing I could receive a Hogwarts letter like Harry did, but I'll just have to settle for a cute purse that looks like one as a little reminder of how much these books have changed my life. In the comments below, I would love if you would tell me what your Hogwarts house is. I'm a Hufflepuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.